Hello and welcome to the Blocktalk podcast with me, Brian Welsh. So this podcast, as you all know, is all about people who work in the property management industry. In this episode, we are talking to one of the newest additions to CPL Software, Tom Beswick. He's in a first-time role for CPL, business development manager, and he came on board a few months ago. So Tom, how are you?
I'm good. Yeah, a little bit cold now that we're getting into the winter months, but other than that,
it is freezing. It must be because you're from the north of England, so it must be a lot colder here. But okay, so if you're new to Blocktalk and listening, it's a podcast produced by CPL Software, team for industry professionals. We try and speak to people from contractors to principals and people working in the property management industry, and just anything to do with kind of factoring and block management. So Tom joined us in July, and you've hit the ground running pretty well, which has been good. Obviously, a lot of business out there for us. But tell me about you. Give me a bit of background about Tom. Who is Tom then?
So, I started off in university doing graphic design advertising. So for me, I always thought that my route was going to be graphic design, just general imagery. And because I was becoming more and more enveloped in the advertising side, I obviously sat quite close to sales.
Right, okay.
And so that's kind of where that kind of passion began. I started to learn more about consultative sales more than, direct approach. And so I just fell in love with solving problems. And I think that's the approach that I try and take. And so it all kind of stemmed from that. And doing that now for a number of years, I just love being able to go out, speak to people, learn about their problems, how we can solve them, and create solutions, really.
Cool. Okay. And I think that was one of the biggest things that came across when we interviewed you, actually, was that, because, you're always, this is a solution sell. You are effectively fixing problems. Yeah. A couple of them, in fact, were people you're talking to and people I've been talking to recently. The one that we've just done, we've sold, goes live next year. We've just done an audit for them to look at what they're using our current product for. And the value add for us is just massive, for that customer. And it's just amazing because people don't know what they don't know, right? Exactly. So, and that is one of the challenges. But yeah, hopefully we can get in front of people and tell them about these sort of things. Absolutely. Okay, so give me an overview of what you do in the team at CPL.
So essentially, I'm that guy that gives you a call on a Tuesday morning. It's the last thing you want. You just come out of a meeting, and there I am on the other end of the phone. But essentially, I'm looking at introducing new business to CPL and also communicating with our existing customers to make sure that they're making full use of our full product suite, essentially.
Okay. And so how has the first few months been?
It's been really good. Like you said, I feel like we've hit the ground running with the role. It's been fascinating kind of speaking to existing customers, learning about what has been beneficial for them since using CPL. But also speaking to new sectors or new companies that we haven't communicated with massively in the past, and understanding where CPL can fit in with their current operation. Mm-hmm. And so it's been a learning experience. I'm new to the industry, and so for me, it's just been a case of trying to soak up as much information as possible, so I can start to regurgitate that when people start asking me questions that maybe I wouldn't have known 6 months ago.
Yeah. Good. No, and that's the way it has been. We've been on a few demos together, actually. In fact, we seem to be doing demos all the time at the moment. And it is like that because the market is quite varied, and people's pain points are quite varied as well. So,
definitely,
it's just about finding a solution for them. Okay, so it's been conference season for us lately. So we've done ARMA in London a few weeks ago. We've just had Property Managers Association, Scotland. We've got a couple of other housing association ones coming up before the end of the year. How did you find them? And I guess, what were your takeaways?
So, starting with the ARMA conference, it was, I think, to describe it in a couple of words, eye-opening.
Yeah.
I think to look at the industry down in England, Wales and Northern Ireland and understand where people's thoughts lie with the current solutions and where their challenges lie. I think it was quite an exciting, eye-opening experience for us.
Yeah.
I think CPL is offering quite a lot to clients north of the border, but we haven't really understood how much relevance that carries down south. And so going to the ARMA conference and speaking to people in various different companies and understanding that, well, actually we've got something here that is potentially going to be game-changing for them was really, really exciting. And so I think for us, it was really valuable to go and speak to those people.
I would entirely agree with that. It was.
In terms of the PMAS, again, it was fantastic to meet quite a few of our existing customers, and that was maybe a little bit disconcerting from my perspective because everybody knows us, but I'm not sure who everybody else is. So there's a lot of squinting, looking at badges as people came over, but on the most part, everybody was really friendly. It was fantastic to kind of meet the customers that we've currently got, and again, learning about what CPL's done for them, and how we can incorporate some of the new products that are being developed into their current operation and kind of take things even further than they are now.
Yeah, I always find it a wee bit disconcerting at these things because I've not done it since the beginning of the year, but I used to do a lot of kind of LinkedIn videos and these sort of things, and obviously I do podcasts. And we were at the conference, one of the sponsors came up and said, "Oh, I listened to your podcast." And I don't know why, but I instantly went, "Okay," but it was quite interesting to get feedback on that from them.
Yeah.
Which was very positive.
There's no request for an autograph then.
There was, but it was just someone taking the piss. But actually met a few people who we've not had on as well, and so we interview a wide range of people on this. But one of the places we've done a couple of kind of people who work into the industry as contractors. We've not done a huge amount of that, so we found another 2 that we could do. From PMAS, which was really, really interesting. Yeah. But I think the biggest one for me is when someone walks up to me and says, "Hi Brian, how are you? How's Arthur?" And I go, "Yeah, okay, I don't know who you are. I don't know if that's I've not met you before, or because I'm getting old and my memory's going." So yeah, that's always a bit of a one for me.
And I thought as well. I mean, again, like I said, this is a new industry for me, and it very much felt like there was a sense of community within the Property Managers Association. And obviously, you're particularly well known, but it very much felt like everybody's quite friendly. Everybody knows one another, and it's a very collaborative environment. We're looking at solutions on a whole as an industry rather than kind of keeping things to ourselves and not making anybody privy to that information, which I think is quite refreshing from my standpoint, definitely.
I think there is a bit of that goes on, but you're right. The talks that were being done as well were very. It's good to have people in the room who are going to add value to those talks as well. And in an industry, I think they are fairly close.
Yeah.
So okay. Okay, so you're new to the team and to the product.
Yeah.
And I always find it interesting when people see the product before they come on board in a job, which is always good because it means they don't just want any job. They want to know the company they want to work for.
Yeah.
And in fact, we have quite a few people nowadays who say that they've seen our website, they've seen the culture that we have within our business, they've seen the benefits package we have in our business. And we actually have people who say they want to come and work for us, which I find quite amazing for a business that's got 24 people or 25 people. I just don't see that. But that's something that people have said in the past, which is always really good for me. Because I guess it's validating that you're doing the right thing.
Definitely.
So what do you think stands out about what the product can offer to our clients and our prospective clients?
I think it's being able to offer something that nobody else is currently able to do.
Yeah.
We have, the 3 things that I'd identified, from the get-go, essentially, after going through the training and understanding and learning the product, was transparency, flexibility, and efficiency. I think they're the 3 core pillars of what CPL does. And especially with the current legislation in Scotland, the transparency aspect is massive.
Yeah.
and it's something that's really crucial to a lot of our clients. But not only that, we are developing the system at a rate of knots.
Yeah.
You'll obviously be aware of that. And so it's not a case of the system is standing still and, this is what you get and this is how it's going to be. It's a case of this is what we've got now. That's going to be completely different in 6 months' time.
Yeah.
And that's where that flexibility lies. It's a case of everybody's different and everybody's got different processes and they work in different ways. And so being able to tailor a system and kind of make changes and adapt it to suit in everybody's in particular way of working, it helps us to be able to kind of break the mold and make sure that we're offering a service that is like you said, adding a significant amount of value to each and every one of our clients, depending on how they currently operate.
Yeah. Do you know, it's funny because I've spoken, I mean, this has happened over the years a number of times, and I don't know what investment we've got in our product. I mean, we've at least got a couple of million quid invested in that product set. In fact, probably more than that, actually. And when you look at our business as well, 50% of our team are developers. So, and I mean, our team it's not doubled over the last 6 to 12 months, but it's certainly increased significantly and near there. And the majority of those people are developers now. You know what I mean? And that is testament to the fact that we still have problems to solve and we still have markets to move into and these sort of things. So yeah, it's a very exciting time to be. It's a very exciting time. And I'm glad you picked up on those things actually when you were once you've seen the product. Okay, so one of the biggest things for us at the moment is Housing Association Scotland, because, and I don't know quite what's happened, but over the last, maybe it's because you phoned them more connecting with LinkedIn, but the amount of inbound connections and inbound inquiries we're getting is significant at the moment. Why do you think that is, and how's the kind of those conversations evolving with housing associations?
I think there's a mindset shift starting to appear. I think a lot of housing associations in the past have seen the factoring side of their operation as a necessary evil, and they're starting to understand that they have a duty of care to the client at the end of the day, and so they want to be providing the best possible service to that client. And so the current methods of providing that service at the moment with an all-in-one system kind of falls short of the mark. And I think that's becoming more and more prevalent because people are more and more privy to information in the technology age now. And so if you're speaking to a friend that's using a different service and they're offering a much better value, then absolutely they're going to be talking and you'd be wondering why you're not receiving that service. And so products like CPL are now becoming more and more prevalent to that side of the industry because it's becoming more and more important to their end client. And at the end of the day, they're the most important people around the table. But not only that, it's a case of being able to provide your own staff the tools that they need in order to carry out their job in the manner that is expected, the level of service that you're wanting to provide to the clients. And so maintaining staff and keeping talent is crucial. And to be able to provide them with the right tools is going to keep them, in your organisation rather than starting to look elsewhere.
No, I'd agree with that. I mean, this is, we've spoken, Jax and I have spoken to people about, well-being and of property management and all that. We've spoken at huge lengths on the podcast about that. So actually finding good people and keeping them in this industry is not the easiest thing in the world to do. But if you're not providing them with the tools to do their job, then that becomes a hell of a lot harder. And I think the challenge, and I found this when I was chatting to someone recently that we'd been speaking to, the challenge is, and it comes back to the I don't know what I don't know. Because, at the end of the day, housing associations do an enormous amount of things and activities that aren't factoring related. Factoring is probably a relatively small part of what a housing association does. So actually, for mainstream housing association software providers, spending time and effort on a kind of what's relatively small part, I guess, of what a housing association does, maybe doesn't make sense. And even, we even speak to people who have housing association software that's newer, and it actually even has a factoring package, but but what is a factoring package? What is that you can't just say I do factoring.
Yeah, it becomes just a tick box rather than an actual value-added service.
Absolutely. I think that's the challenge, and I think the challenge there is and a lot of the inquiries, or some inquiries, not a lot, to be fair, some inquiries that we get are from people who have moved from a private factor to a housing association. They've seen what CPL can provide them, and then look at what they're being provided and go, how do I do my job with this? It's just not going to happen.
And you often say, factoring is not easy. It's a difficult thing to do. And so if you've got somebody that is professing to be the jack of all trades, they end up being the master of none. And so you are factoring, there are housing associations that are engaging in the factoring process. And if you've not got the tools to do that correctly and efficiently, you're falling behind. You have to do it at the end of the day. And like we say, it's not easy. Yeah. So why not provide you and your staff with the best tools to carry out the job?
Yeah, no, I agree. Okay, so what can people expect when they speak to you?
So I think some people may have the preconception that it's going to be a sales pitch, which it very much isn't. I think, like we were mentioning before, we attack this from a consultancy standpoint. Yeah. I think if you speak to me, it's a case of for me to want to understand where the challenges lie. Yeah. And at the end of the day, I need to know that we can satisfy those needs. Yeah. There's no point of us trying to push a product on somebody that isn't going to work at the end of the day. It doesn't work on both sides of the table. So for me, it's a case of understanding where the challenges lie, what they need out of the system, and then I look at, okay, well, can CPL provide that? And if it can, how do we do that? And then at that point, we can then, if you're happy with it, discuss it further date and go through a demonstration and start to understand how that software is going to work for you. And having a physical demonstration, seeing the software in action and typical use case is going to give you a massive amount more information as to how that's going to operate on a day-to-day basis internally than just speaking over the phone. So it's a discovery more than anything. It's not a sales pitch. It's a case of working with you to understand whether this is going to be the right product for you. And it's not going to suit everybody. Yeah. But we've seen great success in the private market, and we believe that we can carry that through and provide a solution to housing associations in Scotland, but as well as the rest of the UK.
Yeah. I think when I remember this actually not when I started CPL. I remember having this conversation with somebody years ago actually, and it was all about what business is good business, and one of the challenges is that it costs the same pretty much, or it certainly doesn't scale in the same way. But if we supply a product to someone who's got, 1,000 units, or someone who's got 20,000 units, actually a lot of the work we need to do is the same work. So if you supply a product to someone who actually is not going to get a huge amount of value out of it, because they're not set up to use it, they're not set, factoring is just an invoice that goes out and it's a necessary evil, then they're not really the clients were maybe looking for, because we cannot add value there. I'd much rather we add value to the people who actually want to make things better. Yeah. Do you know what I mean? And when you start in business, you just want every bit of business you can get. But actually now, because we've got that resource to make, and let's say it's 10 days worth of resource. It could be 2, it could be 20, but let's say 10. If you've got 10 days of a resource to get a client onboarded, you want to do that with someone who's actually
engaged
in the process and wants it to happen. Yeah. Rather than just, we're putting in a bit of software for software. So I guess from our point of view as well, I'm not going to say we pick and choose if we take someone as a client, because that's not how it works. But we would certainly walk away from something where we didn't think we would add value, or where the other side or the people we're partnering with weren't wanting to engage.
Yeah, absolutely. And we are trying to engage with people that we do believe we can add value. And so if you have received an email from me, and I'm sure there's some of you out there that have, there is a reason, because we do believe that there is value there that can be added. And all we're asking for at the end of the day is to just have a discovery call and see if you see the same value there as we do. Because we don't want to take on board customers that aren't going to see value in the system, because that's going to reflect negatively on us at the end of the day, and that's not what we want. We want to have a harmonious relationship and help people to grow in it. And it raises a good point. There are a few companies out there that may believe that they might be too small, but if you are wanting to scale and increase in size, CPL is a really, really valuable tool to enable them to do that. You've got all the resources at that point to then scale at your speed.
Yeah, I mean, I get that, and the sorry, Jack's just told me to come over here. I'm obviously out of frame. Oh, I'm knocking everything everywhere. Oh, it's going to hit me on the head. No, it's not. So what was I talking about? Yeah, so when I first started CPL, I would sit at night and send our invoices, okay, because I didn't want to, couldn't afford to get someone to do that for me, and a lot of people do those sort of things. So someone has a factoring business and they have 500 units or 200 units, and they're sitting there going, okay, I can't afford to bring this person on board. I'll just do it myself. And see, when you double and then double again, you have no life. And you're on this planet once. You might, and you're doing this to build a business so you can enjoy it. So actually, I mean, our smallest client that we've ever had join us, I think, joined us with almost no developments, because they knew they were going to take on business, and they wanted a platform in place so that they could do that. And they're now 9,000-10,000 units. You know what I mean? So it is absolutely. There's no. Yes, you're going to have to invest financially, but
it's very much an investment. It's not a case of it is just dead money. It is providing those really valuable tools to scale.
Yeah. Okay, good. Right. So let's do the getting to know Tom bit. I hear you're an F1 fan, and actually you just told me something about that before we came on air that you needed to mention as well. How did you get into that, and where did that go for you?
I think that's always been a case of being a bit of a petrol head, and obviously you are as well. I mean, I've just been fascinated with machines since as long as I can remember. And that's even just diggers and all sorts. Anything mechanical, I was in on it, and so that naturally led me down the path of sport and then sport Formula One. But I've just found there's just a certain complexity to it where. I mean, I know at the minute, if there is any F1 fans out there, it can be a little bit monotonous when one person is winning all the time. But beneath that, there's so much complexity in what's going on and the challenges that are lying in an individual race in terms of strategy. It's there's never a dull moment if you're fully aware of everything that's going on up and down the field. It's very engaging. I mean, don't get me wrong. There's often times where it is monotonous and it's not very good. But on the whole, I find it gets me much more engaged than a lot of other sports.
Yeah. It's funny you should say that, actually, because my eldest son is just F1 mad.
Oh, really?
And he if there's ever an F1 question comes up in a quiz, a bit of a quizzer as well. If anyone comes up in a quiz, he always gets it right. And actually, he was on the chase a year ago or something. They won, actually.
Oh, wow.
And one of the last he gets ribbed on social media all the time. If you go and look at the episode, because he took the lower offer, right? But he got like 6 questions in the bit at the end, so they wouldn't have won if he wasn't there. So, but his brother ribs him about it as well. And there was a question, I can't remember it was, but it was about what type of car is a blah blah, and it was Maserati, and he got it right. And the only reason he got it right is because I've been Maserati and a petrolhead for years. I love kind of fast cars, and so that's what got him into it. He loves it. A good pal of mine I went to school with loves it, but I mentioned it to my father. Now, okay, he's 87 now, but I mentioned it to my father. He said, "Yeah, I'd rather just sit and paint the wall and turn my chair to the wall and watch it dry." And I'm like, how is that possible? Possible?
It's funny. It's funny you should say that, because my other half, she was never particularly interested in Formula One. But when you go to a race and the atmosphere is, by the definition of the word, electric. You've got helicopters flying over. There's thousands of people in the stands. You've got the noise from the cars. It's just, I don't know. As soon as I went, I was like, right, all my money is going on following this around the world. Often time constraints are a very real thing, but it is. I don't know. I think anybody that's seen it and not been fussed on it, go and watch a race and tell me you still feel the same way.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I've only done it once. I said the Silverstone with Jamie once. So, okay. So, if you weren't working for CPL, what would your dream job be?
Very good question. Again, on the machines side of things, I've always been fascinated with machines, and so I think I've always said that I'd quite like to have been a pilot.
Okay, wow.
I don't think I'm quite clever enough for it, or routine enough, maybe, to have the discipline to go through your pre-flight check every time. But no, there's something fascinating about it, and I love flying. I absolutely love it. The journey for me is just as exciting as the destination when you go and fly, and so the longer the flight, the more exciting it is for me. But yeah, I think if I had the smarts and I went back in time, maybe a pilot.
Wow, that's interesting. My youngest is doing his PPL at the moment. I mean, I love flying, but traveling, not flying. and I'm not mad keen on small aircraft. I much prefer. So when I go to down south, I fly to Heathrow. When Will comes up from Southampton, he comes up from Southampton in a Logan Air jet. Even though it's a jet, it's too small. I don't know if it's being tall. I get a bit cramped. But Fraser was telling me about. So he started at the wrong time, actually, because if he started earlier in the year, he'd probably been through, but now the weather's turned, he can't get out, so just now. But the bit where you have to recover from the stall, and all they do is point up the way and kill the power, I'm like, no, thank you. So I'm not sure I could handle that.
Yeah, I think the practicality of learning and doing things like that might maybe send me the wrong way.
He loves it. I don't get it. I don't know where he gets it from.
Yeah, I think a lot of people that are in that industry, it's just a sense of freedom. I think it's when you're on the road, you very much define. I mean, you do get the same thing, but in light aircraft, you pretty much, as long as you're at a set altitude, you can pretty much go wherever you need to.
It's very true.
And so there's a sense of freedom there, but also it's just so not human, is it, to be up in the air? It's completely the opposite of where we should be or where we're supposed to be. And so I think there's just a fascination with that.
Probably the same as getting from 0 to 60 in 3 seconds.
Yeah, but that's just as, if not more exciting.
Yeah. So, and I haven't had any of this, but I heard you bake a mean Guinness cake. Should we expect to see you on Bake Off?
I can't take the credit for that.
Right.
That's got to be Nigella that takes the credit for it. I can follow a mean recipe. Whether I could bake that from scratch without the notes, I'd be very surprised. But it is good.
Yeah.
I'm sure I brought a slice in for you.
You did. I don't think I ate it. I think I was attempting to lose weight, as I do 5 times every month, I think, probably. Okay, so one final question, so we wrap up. Tell us something about you that people are generally surprised to find out about you.
It's a good question. I'd maybe say I used to compete in something completely different for everything I'm interested in, and it was track cycling.
Oh, wow.
And so I was I would have been or could have been another Chris Hoy.
Right?
I mean, on my 10th birthday party, I had my birthday party at the Manchester Velodrome and was scouted by an Olympic development coach. And she's like, we want you to come. But apparently I didn't show enough interest in the family to warrant driving me over to Manchester every week. So it never materialised, but it was always something I was interested in. I did compete in leagues for a fair few years, but it was very cliquey, so I ended up not falling in the right groups in it. I kind of fell out of love with it, but that was my claim to sporting fame, at least. I managed to meet Chris Hoy at a training session, which was good, before the majority of the medals came, so he was relatively unknown. So
fabulous. Fabulous. I thought you were going to say that you used to run an F1 podcast.
I could say that as well, but I don't know whether I want anybody to go and listen to it.
Fabulous. Well, Tom, thanks so much. Thanks for agreeing to do this. Thank you.
No worries.